So with the second pick in the first round, the Jets will select Zach Wilson in this mock draft. And here's my reasoning. Zach Wilson, if you watch him, if you legitimately watch him and scout him, this guy can make throws from every single angle. This guy one-footed throws, off his foot, different directions. This guy is absolute beast, and he fits the offense. You watch him constantly play actions, bootlegs. This guy is gonna fit the offense. And here's also my reasoning for why Douglas and Saleh would pick him. And it's simple. If Douglas and Saleh stay with Sam Darnold, they really have 1 year to evaluate him because then they have to do a contract negotiation. And let's say Zach Wilson becomes good and Sam Darnold flops. Well, you're not going to be in the same situation to get a top quarterback. And with Zach Wilson, your job is secured for the next 4 years because that's how long it's going to take you to evaluate him. If it takes you that long, it could take you less, but still, it's going to give you more of a security blanket, and that's why I think from their perspective, they're also going to see and say we should draft a quarterback just because it gives us more safety and security in our own jobs. Um, I think I think Douglas accepting calls from Sam Darnold. I think he's gonna look to move him in the coming weeks. Maybe on draft day, maybe not on draft day, maybe after draft day. So I actually have the New York Jets trading Sam Darnold for the 19th pick with the Washington football team. I think this is actually a possibility if the Jets put in, for instance, a future third round pick or a future pick in the mid rounds, and I think they trade Sam Darnold. I think they can get a first round pick. Maybe it's going to be more realistic to get a second round and like a third rounder, but I still think this is possible. And I'm going to have them take an edge rusher, Kwity Paye. And here's the reality of the situation: we need an edge rusher that can beat someone one on one. It is a absolute need for this team. Quinnen Williams, Fedorowski, Nathan Shepard, these are all good tier D linemen. I mean, Quinnen Williams is an elite D lineman, and what they're doing is, you watch them. I watched the Jets games last year. They were just commanding attention in the interior. They're getting double teamed, and what does that allow? It allows for a one-on-one on the edge. But unfortunately, we just don't have the personnel to really take advantage of that, and that's where I think we really need an edge rusher. And it's really, really important we get that done, and we draft one or we sign one. I think Bud Dupree is an interesting option to grab in the free agency, but he just came off a big injury. I really want to draft one. I think having an edge rusher on a cheap contract is extremely important, and I really hope we do go defense with our second first round pick or on our with our early second because I think it's extremely important. I think this defense can be really good if we just continue to improve upon it. And with the 23rd pick now, I'm going to have the Jets select Asante Samuel Jr., cornerback, and here's my reasoning. Last year, Bryce Hall, he looked a really good starter on the outside. He had that huge interception against Jared Goff on the Rams game. And that interception, you could argue, I mean, that probably won us the game, to be honest. That was 3 more points because it resulted in a field goal. And, that would have been a tied game going into the stretch if he hadn't picked that off. And maybe they would have scored. So he single-handedly won us a game. But also, it's just extremely important we cover this position. We have Bryce Hall. We potentially could sign Richard Sherman, but that's not a long-term option. It's just we obviously have Brian Poole, but there's considerations to not bring him back, which I think we should bring him back. It's just we don't have much talent at this cornerback position, and I really think this has to be something on our list. And I think with Robert Saleh, I think with his experience with cornerbacks, you heard in the press conference he said he likes cornerbacks to be able to clutch up in the last 2 minutes of a game on third downs. I think that's what Asante Samuel Jr. can do. I think he can be a great corner. We just need another guy on the outside. And I think if we're gonna bring in Richard Sherman, probably for 1 or 2 years, we need to draft a corner because that's why you bring him in really, to change the culture, to bring in the defensive scheme, but also to help develop our young cornerbacks, and that includes Bryce Hall, and that includes possibly Asante Samuel Jr. or a cornerback we draft. I think this is a very important position as well for the Jets to target in the upcoming draft. And with our second round pick, I have the Jets selecting Trey Smith, an absolute run mauler, a guy who's going to help us in the run game. And we saw how important that was against the Raiders, where we almost won, against the Rams, and really in the games we won, and we're about to win, and we're close to winning. The run game was absolutely key, and with this new offense, it's going to be even more key. And if we can bring in a guy that can help us in the run game, help us in the interior offensive line, which arguably is one of the biggest weaknesses on this team, it's going to be huge. A guy who can pair up with Mekhi Becton and can really help. And this is going to be gonna really help us because this is going to help Connor McGovern too. If we keep him at center, it's very important for centers to have good guards. That's going to help their play as well. So I think this just makes sense all around the board. I think we should be extremely happy if he falls to us in the second round. Um, and again, we could possibly look at drafting a right tackle, but I don't really see it because I think Joe Douglas likes what he sees with George Fant. And what he did, he did really good. I think he'll excel in the new scheme. I see a lot of people mocking a right tackle to the Jets. I just don't really understand it because I think interior offensive line is so much more of a glaring need that I don't really understand a right tackle. With our first third round pick, I have the Jets selecting Amari Rodgers. So I want you guys to watch Trevor Lawrence, watch his film. There's one guy who stands out on that Clemson offense, and it's Amari Rodgers. This guy, if you watch Trevor Lawrence, is his number one target. This guy is always making plays. This guy is the reason why that why Clemson, not the reason, but a good part of the reason why Clemson had so much success. And I think he's really good. I watch him. The only knock on him I have is when I watch Trevor Lawrence in the Clemson offense. He did drop a few good balls from Trevor Lawrence, but I still think he's really good. I think he's a sleeper in the draft. Great route running, great explosiveness, good catching ability. He's really good, and the Jets already expressed interest, I believe. I think they had a meeting with Amari Rodgers, so this is a guy who could legitimately go to the Jets and help them right away. We need a wide receiver for our new quarterback, and even if we stick with Sam Darnold, we definitely need a new wide receiver, right? And this guy is it. I think I think it's very possible we go wide receiver earlier, but also I think it's extremely likely we sign Curtis Samuel or maybe Will Fuller because that's apparently one guy the Jets are interested in, Juju Smith-Schuster. But I'd rather have Curtis Samuel out of all of them. I think they fit the system. We need explosive players. We're gonna have a lot of motion in our offense. We're gonna need fast players. So I could see Kadarius Toney, a shifty, fastish player, go to us with the 23rd pick. But here I'm going to have Amari Rodgers on the first pick in the third round. I think he's going to shoot up draft boards before the draft. He might go in the second round. And with our last pick in the third round, I have the Jets selecting Javon Williams, running back. He actually played in kind of a rotational running back with two running backs in that college system, in their college system. But he's explosive. He had a breakout year this year, and I think we need to add running back depth. We're already seeing many running backs being interviewed and having meetings with the New York Jets, including Najee Harris, who might be a second round candidate, maybe first round, but I doubt we're going to spend a first round pick on a running back. But listen, I think if we want explosiveness out of the backfield, we need a guy who can come in as a rotational guy because he kind of shared carries with another running back in college. This is a guy we could grab, Javon Williams. We're probably going to have Javon Williams if we draft him. Possibly a running back off free agency, LaMichael Pirine, Todd Johnson. We're going to have a plethora of options at the running back. And the new scheme, it's all about fresh legs. It's all about having the most speed and stamina there. And I think this is very good. I think we're definitely gonna draft a running back in the draft, but it depends where and who. Again, we could be looking for one of the top running backs, but we could also look for a value pick and later on in the draft, and I think that's most likely with Javon Williams in the third round.